If you've been following the news lately, you know that tensions are rising between North and South Korea. In this video, I'll be sharing a brief history of where did this conflict originate from. Before Korea was divided into North and South, the country was ruled by the Japanese Empire for a period of 35 years up until the end of World War II. In 1945, the Allied powers, which consisted of the UK, the US, and the USSR, were at the brink of defeating the Axis powers, which consisted of Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan. During this period, the Soviet Union decided to invade the northern part of Korea, which was then occupied by Japan. As the Soviet troops began to advance rapidly towards the south, the US government started to get worried that they would take the whole of Korea. To give you some context, although the US and Russia were allies at this time, the Soviet Union had a communist government, so the US feared that if they overtook Korea, this would significantly advance the spread of communism in Korea and abroad. So the US offered Russia to split the country in two so that Russia could occupy the north of Korea while the US could occupy the south. The Soviet Union accepted this proposal, and so US troops were sent to the southern part of Korea, and shortly after they landed, the Japanese surrendered and the country was now divided into two occupation zones. The Soviet army occupied the northern part of Korea while the US army occupied the south. Because Korea was completely ruled by the Japanese regime, they didn't have a government to fall back on. So Russia and the US agreed that the country would be placed under the rule until Korea was deemed ready to establish their own government. It was understood that this division was only supposed to be temporary until Korea could self-rule as a unified country. During this time, however, tensions began to rise between the US and the Soviet Union. This period is known as the Cold War, when the two countries began to disagree on geopolitical issues such as the expansion of territories and global influence. As a result of this, negotiations failed between the US and the Soviet Union, which prevented the re-establishment of an independent, unified Korean state. So as they failed to come to an agreement to unify Korea, in 1948, with the help of the United Nations, the US held an election in the south and established South Korea as an independent state. Just 3 weeks later, Russia held their own election in the northern part of Korea and established North Korea as an independent state as well. Both the US and Russia appointed political leaders that shared their own political views and ideologies, which created further divide. Russia appointed Kim Il-sung as their leader, who was also known as the grandfather of Kim Jong-un. Kim Il-sung was trained by the Russian army and was committed to advance communism in North Korea. The US, on the other hand, appointed Kim Sung-ri, who was an anti-communist and went to an American school. As North and South Korea both became independent states, each side had a desire to rule the whole of Korea, which led to numerous fatal conflicts even leading up to the Korean War. In 1950, just 2 years after both countries had their independence, North Korea decided to attempt to unify Korea by force by invading South Korea. The North Korean army nearly overtook South Korea until the American troops came to the rescue and pushed the North Korean army back, nearly overtaking all of North Korea. This is when China got involved and sent hundreds of thousands of troops to help North Korea and push the US out of North Korea. The war eventually ended in a stalemate, with neither side having a clear victory over the other. This war cost the lives of nearly 3 million people. The Korean War lasted 3 years and has left Korea divided until this day. Throughout history, the relationship between North and South Korea has remained hostile. Tensions have been rising as North Korea has conducted multiple nuclear tests. In response to these tests, in recent weeks, America and South Korea has performed defensive military drills which provoked North Korea to send warning missile shots near the South Korean mainland. So until this day, South and North Korea are still going back and forth, and who knows where it will lead. Do you think North and South Korea will have a second war? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.